past president of the Plymouth Rotary Club, and for the second year, the District Grants Overview Chair for 6400. So Russ, take it away.
Thank you, Rick, and good evening, everyone. Just as a reminder, I can't see everybody's face on the screens, so if you wave your hand, I more than likely won't see it. Please put your questions in the chat space, and that'll be most helpful, and then that way I can get to them at the end and I can get through this as quickly as possible. So this is the Grants 101 part of the District Assembly. And it's basically the very much abridged Reader's Digest version of our grant management seminar. And those seminars are available on video, YouTube, and through the district website. So what I'd like to make sure I cover tonight, and I need to make my part a little smaller. Well, in any case, we're going to talk a little bit about what the District Rotary Foundation Committee is, what district designated funds, or DDF, are. People seem to have a big mystery there. What makes for a successful grant project, Rotary grants and our district grants, the various ones that you have an opportunity to get, our grant stewardship, and what it takes to qualify for your club to participate in the grants program. So the Foundation Committee is charged with raising funds for the Rotary Foundation. That's also known as the International Foundation, managing the grant programs in the district, and ensuring the district fulfills its fiduciary responsibilities to the Rotary Foundation, its members and donors. We act as a connection between the Rotary Foundation and our club members. So the District Rotary Foundation Committee membership, you can see all the people on here that they all have jobs. The highlighted, these 5 highlighted, are the folks that vote on all the distributions of district foundation, Rotary Foundation funds. And those people are just our chairman, Rick Caron. Sue Goldson is the fundraising chair. Past District Governor Carpenter is the polio chair. Roberto Sanchez, past District Governor, is our stewardship chair. And I am the grants overview chair. And within this group of the subcommittee for the grants, we've got some very well qualified and people that make sure everything happens. Myself again, and I'm also the global grants officer. Bill Jasmine, and Bill's here on the call tonight, is our district grants officer. Colleen Mitchell is our global scholars. That's one of our grants, is the Global Scholar Grants. She is our grant scholar officer. And Janet Kelly is our vocational team training officer. Colleen and Janet help you with putting together, if you do want to participate in a vocational training team grant or the Global Scholars Grant. And Bill coordinates all of the district grants. In addition, we work very closely hand in hand with Roberto Sanchez. He is our stewardship chair on the committee, as I pointed out earlier, and he's our compliance officer. He keeps us on the straight and narrow and makes sure that we meet all our fiduciary requirements. So, and I can only see part of this. Let me see if I can't make this. There's a way to get, there we go. People were hiding it. District designated funds for next year. In 2017, we raised almost $332,000 in the annual fund at the Rotary Foundation. 3 years later, beginning in July, we will get back access to almost $166,000 of what's called district designated funds. And the key there is district designated. We don't have the money, we designate where the Rotary Foundation needs to send the money. And that is broken down into 2 more pieces. The first piece is global grants, and we're required to set aside at least half of that money for global grants. The other, whatever we don't set aside for global grants, but no more than half, is set aside for the district community grants, which is actually one big block grant that we put together, and it's subdivided down to all the clubs. And that's about $83,000 this next year. Sometimes there's a little bit extra money. Any money we don't use this year will roll over to next year into the global grants area. And there's some other endowed funds that generate income that we have access to as well. But we know we're going to have almost $166,000 to use next year. So the Rotary Foundation, the district grants program pays for scholarships, travel, and projects that all align with our Rotarian mission. They contribute to world understanding, goodwill, and peace by improving health, supporting education, and alleviating poverty. It's what your clubs, what you want to do. They're great, they're simple, and I'm going to go into them in greater detail. And I'm also going to show you where you can see the projects that we approved for our current year that is just about to end. Overall, we last year at this time, we approved 35 district community grants. 29 were for individual clubs and 6 were what we call collaborative grants. And these are grants where several clubs get together to maximize the amount of money they have available for a project that they're going to work on together. In addition, $1,200 was set aside for administrative expenses. Most of that is for a system called ShareFile that we use to maintain all our documentation. It's online, it's on the cloud, and it's very secure. And the district pays for it out of these funds. It also covers some postage because we have a lot of postage for all the checks and such. Okay. Global grants. Before we start the year, we automatically set aside some of that district designated funds. Remember, it's about $82,000. We set some of that aside. We set aside $15,000 to support a governor's vocational training team. And we also set aside $15,000 for a governor's global scholar. These are basically sponsored by the district. There's no matching requirements from the clubs, and it's the governor's election as to what's going to happen, and you'll see a little more with that. We also always try and set aside 20% of the total. In other words, this coming year, it'll be about $32,000 that we'd like to be able to contribute to the End Polio Now campaign. It's a tithe that the foundation asks for, but we're not required to do. And we try and make sure we have that money available. But if we spend it on grants, so be it. We're supporting our clubs. And we usually wait to the end of the year to make that contribution. We have already made the contribution in the current year. So beyond those allocations, we are willing to match clubs' money for a global grant of up to $10,000. So your $10,000, we would put another $10,000 of district designated funds in there and instantly double your money. And that's the maximum, but it is a dollar for dollar match. Sometimes we have clubs participating in other global grants from other districts, and those are, but they're participating, but they're sponsored by another district, and we will match up to, we will put in up to $5,000. It's not exactly a dollar to dollar match. Quite often it's not. And the best example of this is really the Guatemala Literacy Project, which has been going on for a number of years. And in fact, in 2020 and 21, that project is being run, Sue, by which, well, you can't, you're muted, but it's being actually sponsored by the Rotary Club of Windsor, Roseland. So we will be setting aside $10,000 because it is a club global grant. But in normal years, we contribute $5,000 to that project. So a successful grant, it all starts with, a grant's no good if we don't have a successful project. So what makes a successful project? We meet community needs by having a needs assessment before we start. So we make sure that we do what the community wants and needs, and not what we want them to have. We have a project plan, including a committee, and that divides up the responsibilities, an implementation plan, metrics for measuring success, and all important contingency plans, because Murphy's Law always kicks in where when something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So you want a contingency plan. Your budget is not only for your spending, your budget is also how you're going to fund the project. We also need measurable goals, and that goes back to your metrics, and they can be qualitative as well as quantitative. And also sustainability is a requirement for global grants. Stewardship is all about proper use of the funds, and that includes documenting things. Say what you're going to do it, and then prove it or document it. And most importantly, it's managing and disclosing any potential or actual conflicts of interest. And we're going to talk about that in greater detail. So on the application, you're going to be having to do several steps. And bottom line, it's 3 simple steps. Say what you're going to do it, and then prove that you did it through the reporting process. So for global grants, if you think you want to get involved with global grants, I suggest you start with the Rotary Guide to Global Grants. And in fact, it's a really great document. It'll help you with any of our grant programs in putting together a good project. And you can get that the easy way is just Google Guide to Global Grants. And the very first thing that comes up, this is an actual screenshot, is the Rotary Guide to Global Grants. Download it. It's about 40 pages. And just get a new one every time you need it. You can save it for a bit, but they update it periodically, and so to make sure you have the most current, that's what you want to do. So start with that, read through it. It's an easy read. Global grants require a needs assessment. There's a special form. You have to have that done in advance of your application, and it's submitted with the application. You don't have to do it. If it's this is going to be an international project, you can have somebody in the other country do it. If it's in your country, then you can do it. It must meet one of the 6 areas of focus. And if you're having trouble figuring out which one, we'll help you. Rick, myself, and we have others such as past district governors Donna and Mary Keogh, very experienced. We'll figure it out where it slots. You must have a partner. If it's in another country, you need a host country Rotary partner. If you're putting together something in our country, meaning Canada, the United States, either one, you need a club from a different country. And we've actually done things where it happened in the United States here in Detroit, and a Toronto club was our partner. It has to be sustainable. That's basically, it has to be able to stick around for 5 years. It must be a total project size of $30,000. There's no deadline. It's a rolling application process, and both the international and host partners must be qualified, and you'll be hearing more about qualification down the road. As I said, there's no deadline. It's all online. That process, you can go to rotary.org and log in. If you do not have a My Rotary credentials, very simple. You just register. All you need is an email and a name, and you're good to go. You don't even have to be a Rotarian. But you get that there. And how do you find it? Once you're in My Rotary, you'll see these tabs across the top. Hover over Take Action, slide down, go to Grant Center and click on it. You'll see this. If you want to apply for a new grant, click here. If you want to go to a grant that you've started or you've drafted, go to My Grants, and you'll see a list of all the grants that you are responsible for, which is usually 1. So how do you fund your grant? You fund your grant with DDF and cash, and then you get matching from the Rotary Foundation. So let's go through a quick example. If you want exactly $30,000, this is it down to the penny. And thank you, Rick Caron, math professor, for having things to the very penny. Let's say you want to put in, you have $9,000 available. You can contribute $8,571 and a few cents. These are all US dollars, by the way, towards the grant, because the Rotary Foundation takes a 5% administrative fee of all cash contributions. So This is 5% of the project contribution. As I said, if you qualify, we will match your cash with DDF, district designated funds. We will designate this money to that grant, 8571 and change. The Rotary Foundation will say, oh, you're putting some cash in, we will give you 50 cents on the dollar, or $4,285. And then they say, oh, the Rotary Foundation says, oh, you have some DDF, we will match that dollar for dollar. So you actually will get you'll get 200% right here, plus another 50%. So you have 250% match on your 8571, or a total of 30,000, 12,800 and change from the Rotary Foundation, 8571 of our district designated funds, and your 8,500 bucks. I know I went through that fast, but just remember this: DDF, we will match your club cash with DDF up to $10,000. The Rotary Foundation will match your cash at 50 cents on the dollar, and any DDF, the Rotary Foundation will match dollar for dollar. And you don't have to just get ours. Many times clubs will go out to other districts and ask for assistance, just like we're willing to help another district with their project with some DDF. Other districts will do as well with us. And we'll be glad to help you figure out how you're going to put all this together. There's a couple special global grants. One is the Scholars I mentioned, that's Colleen Mitchell manages that for us, and the vocational training teams, which Janet Kelly does. The Global Scholars, it's for foreign study, and it has to be a graduate program in an accredited college or university. We currently have two are currently out there, and we're processing a third. One is at the London School of Economics, and one is, no, we've completed those other ones. I'm sorry, I get confused. We've had two most recently in Spain and also Cambridge. And then next year's is going to be a student at Oxford University in the UK. But we've had them go all over the world, but it has to be outside the home country. So a US student could go to Canada, like McGill, or another country, and similarly a Canadian student could come to the US if they want to go to a great university like the University of Michigan. So, and they also must study in one of those 6 areas of focus. Vocational training teams. This is a group of professionals that are going to go to another country, either come to one of our countries or our members go into another country. They don't have to be members of Rotary. Typically the leader will be a Rotarian, but that's not required either. And you bring new practices and upgraded techniques to wherever the host is. And next year, District Governor-elect Knoll is going to lead a VTT team on dental practices to Ghana. And I'm sure it's going to be a great program they're putting together right now. Janet helps him with getting his candidates. And I need to mention that with the Global Scholars, if you want the DDF, we will put in up to $10,000 DDF for that Global Scholar, unless it's the governor designated Global Scholar, they've got 15. But we will put in 10. And then you must, if you want the DDF, you must work through Colleen. If you want to just do one on your own, that's fine, you won't get any DDF. And similarly, the vocational training teams, you must work with Janet if you want to have the DDF money. Reporting. You must report, within 12 months of the first payment. There's a whole reporting thing online. And then every 12 months thereafter until it's done. These are often multi-year programs. And the final report is due 60 days after completion. District community grants, and Bill Jasmine is on the line in case we have any questions, but these are smaller, easier, and they are without a doubt the most popular, as I've already talked about, with 35 of them last year. So pretty simple. Rotarians must be involved. Projects could be local or international. So if they're international, you don't necessarily have to go overseas yourself. If you're working with another Rotary club, those Rotarians can do the work, but you must have some involvement. If you're having trouble with figuring out how to get involvement in some of these grants, Bill or myself will be glad to help you with some ideas on how to do that. Each club can submit and have a single club grant for their community where they are the only ones getting matched. And then we also have collaborative grants for up to 4. And then they don't need to be in an area of focus, even though they typically are, but it's not a requirement. The club must match dollar for dollar. We will match on a single club grant, $1,000 to $2,500. So the minimum project size is 1,000, or excuse me, 2,000, 1,000 from the club and 1,000 in district funds. And we will match up to $2,500 of the club funds. You can go over that with other cash, certainly. Collaborative grants are 2 to 4 clubs working together, each club contributing at least $500 and up to 1,000. It can be more, but we'll only match $500 to $1,000, not less and not more. And it match kind of works on a club by club basis. So the total could be $4,000. So let me give you a little example here for the collaborative grants. They seem more complicated, but they're not. 2 to 4 clubs. So let's just say 4 clubs are going to be involved in a project in usually adjoining communities. It doesn't have to be. And it's usually between 1,000, excuse me, there we go. 500 to $2,000. Each club puts in each of the 4 clubs puts in $500 or $2,000 in total. District will also put in $2,000. So you get a $4,000 project. It's a great way not only to work with other clubs, but also to really leverage your money. The deadline is drawing nigh. It's a week from tomorrow. Applications for next year, they need to be time-stamped in this Rotary email, rotary6400grants@gmail.com. Send them there. It's right on the application. We'll show you how to get that application shortly. Send them there. It has to be time-stamped by May 30th, or we cannot accept it. If there's mistakes or whatever, we will work on fixing those, but we need to have it by then so that we can get things done. You cannot start, and it just came up today, you cannot start the work until you hear from us that the grant has been approved by the Rotary Foundation in Evanston. That approval, we usually tell you to plan on somewhere between August 1st and August 15th. Last year it was actually around July 14th. But wait until you get the official word or we cannot pay you. The district share is paid after you complete it. So you have to front the money. If there's a problem, if your club is tight on funds, talk to us. We will try and work with you. But in general, it's a after the fact reimbursement. And then your report is due May 30th of the following year. So where the heck are these applications? They're electronic paper, if you will. They're Word documents. So you go to rotary.org, mouse over the tab there that says Foundation. When you hover over where it says Foundation, you'll get this drop down and just pick, oddly enough, Rotary Foundation and District 6400 grants. When you click on that, this is the pertinent part of the page. We explain the 2 grants again, and then here's where I said, this is where you can, we'll do this every year. You'll be able to see what grants we've done the most recent year, and if you need some ideas, you can certainly go there and look. And here's the 2 applications, single club and collaborative right there. And actually just below that is the reporting link. So those are the link, you download it, fill it out, and it's fillable form. If you want to do it and type it in, I can read it better that way. Bill can read it. Bill has to review all these, poor man. And so be kind. But you can fill them out by hand, and then we're probably going to call you with some assistance in reading. So There's this other grant out there that used to be known as the golf grant, the World Community Service District Matching Grants. They have, as a committee, we have nothing to do with this grant, but everybody asks us because they think of us as being grant folks. These are funded by the governor's golf outing, and they're managed by and approved by the governor string, the last two, the current and the next two. So that goes back to Rick Huron and out to Tracy Sincock for next year. April 1st and October 1st are the deadlines. It must be international. You have to have some skin in the game with some money, but they will match up to twice as much. It's up to them. They review it and they work out with you what they think is appropriate. It is somewhat competitive. They have a budget, but it's flexible. The amount, ask for what you want, and they'll tell you what they'll give you. The application is also in the very same place on the district website as where I just showed you for the district grants. Stewardship, and I'm going to skip through that pretty quick. Proper controls, safeguarding the funds, so those are the most obvious. Conflicts of interest. The most important is we can't have Rotarians unnecessarily benefiting financially or personally, or an indirect or direct benefit. Conflicts of interest happen. We can manage them, we can try and circumvent them, but they must be disclosed. If there's an alternative, take it. Otherwise, document why you need to, for example, buy trophies from the local trophy guy. He's a Rotarian and you live in a small town. Or potentially his brother-in-law owns or her brother-in-law owns the trophy shop. If they have the best prices and you can document it, then you can go for it. But you must disclose it. And if you have any questions, check with Roberto Sanchez. Retention is done. Save everything. Use share file. And when you go to the grants, we help you with that. I'm trying to finish here. To qualify, 2 members must attend the grant management seminar or do the videos. And then if you do the videos, contact Rick Huron or myself, and Rick will send you the questions. You have to take a little test. You have to pass the test. We do everything we can to make sure you pass the test. It's not an easy test, but if you make mistakes, we give you more than one chance. In addition, you must sign the MOUs, both the one with the Rotary Foundation and the district addendum. Those are the rules. You read that. Please read the MOU because that tells you what the rules you have to qualify, you have to have and follow. Now, that gets you a qualification, but if you want DDF, you have to. That's the $100 per capita. $100 per person this year based on the number of members you started the year with in your club. So if you started the year with 13, even though you have 30 now, you must have at least $1,300 contributed to the annual fund, not to Polio Plus, not to other stuff. Certainly support those other programs, but we would need that $100 per member in the annual fund because that's going to come back to us 3 years from now. So you need to have that money in if you want any district grants, because that's funded by DDF. If you want DDF matching in a global grant, got to meet that. The golf outing grant, on the other hand, you don't need to have the match. You just need to have the MOU and attend the grant management seminar. So that is the quick end. Rotary6400grants@gmail.com. Please, please, please remember this. Always on your subject line, give me your club name and the reason, because otherwise I can't remember who everybody, I remember many of you, but I may not remember what club you're in. And it helps me sort through there much more quickly and get things routed where they have to go. Noel Jackson, are you still with us?
I'm
Unmute
with you.
yourself.
I'm
Okay,
with
Noel,
you.
please.
All right, we're to the end of this segment. I just really want to compliment everybody who's worked so hard to put all of this assembly information together. I'm extremely proud of how well everything has come together and all the people that have made it happen. Russ, thank you for a great presentation, putting everything together. my side Rick, Professor Rick Karen. Great job. Thank you, everybody.
All right, folks, I'm going to look at the chats and try and answer your questions. If you want to stick around and not go to Sue's, I would hope you would. Kim Spiro, she pointed out that I can't do math. The $4,000 contributions on a collaborative grant is $8,000. Bill Jasmine, thank you also for that correction. I missed it. I don't see any questions. They did a great job. And Mary Lou, you're welcome. And so enjoy the other one. If you have questions, please feel free to email me. Thank you much, folks. I am going to end the thing now if I somehow can figure out how to do that. And bye now.